Every list of Nietzschean films is built from the same three search terms: the Übermensch, nihilism, eternal recurrence. Type them in, and the same titles surface: Fight Club, A Clockwork Orange, The Turin Horse. But Nietzsche spent most of his life writing about something else: how weakness disguises itself as virtue, how pity conceals contempt. Films built on this machinery exist. They appear on no list, because nobody is searching with the right words. Here are 6 of them. Let's dive in.
Or this. This. Yes. Better? What do you think?
Amadeus, 1984. Everyone remembers Amadeus as a film about jealousy. Watch what Salieri actually does, and a different machine appears. A jealous man wants what the other man has. Salieri wants something stranger. He wants the scoreboard overturned. As a boy, he offers God a contract: chastity, industry, devotion, in exchange for musical glory. When Mozart arrives, vulgar, effortless, touched, Salieri doesn't merely covet the gift. He opens a ledger. He has deposited virtue and received mediocrity. Mozart has deposited nothing and received the voice of God. The accounts don't balance, so the currency itself must be fraudulent. This is what Nietzsche called ressentiment, and it runs on a precise mechanism. The man who cannot win within a value system doesn't leave it, he inverts it. Salieri cannot defeat Mozart in music, so he moves the contest to a court where he holds the advantage: morality. His piety becomes a weapon, his suffering becomes evidence, and God becomes the defendant. The night he burns the crucifix, he isn't abandoning faith. He's filing a lawsuit against it, and his revenge stays in character. He destroys Mozart not through confrontation but through patronage, smothering him with kindness, the priestly method from first to last. Schaffer's Salieri is an invention. The historical composer poisoned no one. But the invented man ends exactly where Nietzsche's analysis points: in an asylum, absolving the inmates as the self-anointed patron saint of mediocrities. The weak man who, unable to become excellent, appointed himself the priest of everyone who failed.
C'est là, dans ce petit café de Rochechouart, que j'appris la plupart de mes tours. Il me les donna sans hésiter et de la meilleure grâce du monde.
Pickpocket, 1959. The canon has a reserved seat for this concept. Every list of Nietzschean films includes some thriller about a man who decides he's a superior being, exempt from morality, entitled to crime, always as villain, always as warning. And yet the film that dissects this delusion most precisely appears on none of them, because Bresson got claimed by other departments first. The Catholics took the ending, the Dostoevsky scholars took the plot. Michel is a Parisian drifter with a theory. Certain exceptional men, he argues to a police inspector over cafe tables, should be permitted to break laws, a thesis delivered in a flat, rehearsed monotone, like a man trying on a coat that doesn't fit. The philosophy is secondhand. He steals it the way he steals wallets, and he is transparently miserable. The inspector sees what critics later confirmed: a man arranging his own capture. Here is what Michel's theory garbles: Nietzsche's test for a higher type has nothing to do with permission. Zarathustra's verdict: whoever cannot obey himself will be commanded. Beyond good and evil goes further. Everything of value, virtue, art, mastery grows from one soil: long obedience in a single direction, a tyranny of discipline the strong impose on themselves. Exemption is what the weak request. Now watch Michel's hands. The metro sequences, months of drills, fingers rehearsing a watch slip like scales on a piano. Bresson filming practice with the patience of ritual. This is long obedience in a single direction, the only territory in Michel's life where he commands himself. He begs the world for an exemption precisely because he cannot legislate for himself. Meanwhile, his hands are quietly doing the one thing Nietzsche would recognize as self-overcoming. The body refutes the mouth, and Michel never hears it. Bresson, a Catholic, ends it in prison. The theory collapses, the hands go idle, and salvation arrives through a woman's love, a door Nietzsche would have left painted shut.
If there's any town this world would be better without, this is it.
Yes. Shoot them, burn down the town.
Dogville, 2003. For most of its 3 hours, Dogville looks like a Christian parable. A fugitive woman named Grace arrives in a poor mountain town. The town shelters her, then exploits her, then enslaves her, and she forgives all of it, absorbing each new cruelty with saintly patience. Chained to an iron wheel, raped night after night, she still finds excuses for her tormentors. They are weak, they are frightened, they are doing their best under hard circumstances. Her mercy appears bottomless. Then her father arrives in a black car, and the film stages one of the strangest philosophical duels in cinema. The father's accusation is precise, and it is Nietzsche's. He calls her forgiveness what it actually is: arrogance. Grace pardons the townspeople with excuses she would never permit herself, which means she holds them to a lower standard, which means her mercy is a form of contempt. She doesn't love the people of Dogville. She looks down on them from an altitude so great that their crimes register as weather. Nietzsche spent a career making this exact argument, that boundless pity is not the opposite of power but one of its masks, and the pitier always stands above the pitied. The film gives his case to a mob boss, and the case wins. What follows is the trap. Grace accepts the argument, revalues her values, and orders the town exterminated, children first, mother watching. Viewers who cheer the massacre have mistaken revenge for revaluation, the oldest misreading of Nietzsche there is. Grace doesn't transcend her morality of pity. She flips it over and keeps the arrogance. Judgment from the same altitude, now armed. The film burns both positions to the ground and offers nothing in their place, which may be the most honest ending a Nietzschean experiment has ever received. Climax 2018. The first thing Climax shows you is its thesis, disguised as a dance number. 20 dancers, one unbroken take, crump, whacking, voguing. Raw, violent, erotic energy, held inside choreography. Frenzy given form. Nietzsche's first book argued that Greek tragedy was born from exactly this marriage, the Dionysian, intoxication, the dissolving of the self into the collective, made bearable by the Apollonian, the force of form, boundary, individuation. Neither alone produces art. The opening number of Climax is that marriage performed live, and it may be the most purely Nietzschean 5 minutes in modern cinema. Then someone spikes the sangria with LSD, and Noé begins removing Apollo from the room. What follows is not a party gone wrong. It's a controlled demolition of the principle of individuation. Names stop mattering. Bodies that moved as one in the dance now merge as one in panic, a single writhing organism in red light. Taboos collapse in order. Violence, incest, self-harm, a child locked in with the electricity. And here is the detail almost every review misses. Nietzsche predicted this exact outcome. In The Birth of Tragedy, he distinguishes the Greek Dionysian festivals from their barbarian counterparts, orgies he calls a witch's brew of sensuality and cruelty. The difference between the two is Apollo. Dionysus with form is tragedy. Dionysus without form is horror. Climax is not a Dionysian film. It is a film about what the Dionysian becomes when nothing shapes it. The Barbarian Festival, staged in a French dance school under a tricolor flag. Noé says he was filming the Tower of Babel. He was also illustrating section 2 of a book from 1872.
Monsieur Hoffman, je suis l'homme que vous cherchez. Elle est morte? Morte? Venez avec moi en France et vous saurez tout. Jusqu'à sa mort. Je vous offre cette chance. Unique.
The Vanishing, 1988. Critics found the Nietzsche in this film decades ago. They just found him in the wrong man. Raymond Lemorne, the chemistry teacher who abducts Saskia from a sunlit rest stop, has been called a self-styled Übermensch ever since the film's release. The bourgeois family man who once rescued a drowning girl and concluded that, to be complete, he must also prove himself capable of the worst act imaginable. A predator testing whether he lives beyond good and evil. It's an accurate description of the film's least Nietzschean idea. Raymond is rope in a French countryside. The sociopath as philosopher. The misreading with 100 entries in the canon. The film's real Nietzschean subject is the boyfriend. Rex Hoffman spends 3 years searching for Saskia, and the search hollows him out precisely because it has stopped being about her. Girlfriends leave, grief fades. What remains is the pure, isolated need to know. Nietzsche's genealogy ends with a diagnosis that took philosophy a century to digest. The will to truth is the ascetic ideal's final form, the last altar left standing, where truth is worshipped as more valuable than life itself. And the film builds the perfect laboratory for it. Raymond offers Rex a choice no thriller had dared. You can only learn what happened to her by experiencing it yourself. Here is coffee, drink, and you will know. Rex knows what the coffee means. He drinks it anyway, and wakes up buried alive, holding a lighter in possession of the truth. The French release title says everything the reviews missed. L'homme qui voulait savoir. The man who wanted to know. Not the man who wanted her back. The man who preferred a horrifying answer to an open question, and paid for knowledge with the only currency Nietzsche said it ever really costs.
Good morning. 44 days left. Breakfast is served.
The Lobster, 2015. The rules of the hotel are simple. You have 45 days to find a partner, or you become an animal. Couples must share a defining trait, a limp, nosebleeds, a heartless disposition, because in this world, love is a matching of symptoms. Satire of couple worship, yes. But the film's real experiment begins in the woods, and it tests a precise claim from the genealogy of morals. Nietzsche's noble begins with himself. He calls his own life good, and only afterward, almost as an afterthought, notices the rest. The slave begins with the enemy. His first creative act is to call the master evil, and only from that no does he derive his own goodness as a remainder. Whatever such a revolt builds will be the enemy's structure wearing a minus sign. Now watch the loners. Coupling is forbidden. Flirtation is punished with mutilation. Everyone dances alone. Every rule is the hotel's rule inverted, which means every rule is still the hotel speaking. Their identity has no content of its own. Remove the hotel, and the loners describe nothing. They are, in Nietzsche's exact sense, reactive, a herd whose founding value is another herd's negation. David escapes one and joins the other, and his love dutifully obeys the hotel's central law. He matches with the short-sighted woman on a defining trait. When the loner leader has her blinded, the match breaks. So the film's last image, David in a diner restroom, knife raised toward his own eyes, no manager watching, no rebel watching. The norm needs no guards. It has moved inside him. The man who cannot begin with himself can only change herds and pay the entry fee in flesh. 6 films, 6 mechanisms, none of them on the lists. The problem was never that cinema ignored Nietzsche. We kept listening to the speeches when he was in the hands all along. Nietzsche spent 20 years cataloging the masks that weakness wears. These 6 films pulled them off. Thank you for watching.